I'll get straight to the point. So I was recently made aware of some allegations Kawaii Pony Productions, aka KP, former voice actor for Amphia, made against me about being a predator. I'm not here to play victim or avoid the seriousness of the situation. I just want to set the record straight and counterpoint some of the claims she made on me. Whether you choose to believe me or not is up to you. And just to get it out of the way, the ACO series will still be continuing, it's never going to be cancelled. I repeat, the ACO series will still be continuing and will never be cancelled. So to start, I'll recount some of my own perspective before all this happened, and then directly address your claims. KP and I met in a Discord server around 3 to 4 years ago. Around that time, she was 15 and reaching 16, and I was 18. So I respected her boundaries. Most of our times in DMs were just being goofy, memeing around, and being friendly. It progressed to the point of a brother-sister-sibling dynamic, nothing else. We even provided solace and allowed each other to vent about our problems. Then over time, I'd give her head pats and pets to her in the roleplay sense, and she consented to it. I tend to do so to show brothership. Nothing more, nothing less. Now, she claimed that he did it constantly and that it made her uncomfortable. To clarify, that wasn't the case. As you can see, the dates only show that it only occurred on average every few days to over a month at most. And as you can see from the exchanges, she wasn't appalled by it at the time. Now, if that did make her uncomfortable, she could have simply told me directly and I would have respected that boundary, but she never did. Could I have toned that down or stopped it at any time? Yes, but the moment is gone now. And yes, it does make me look questionable, but only if you took this out of context. Keep this in mind for later. And even then, nothing currently shown thus far shows attempts at grooming. Now, there are LS lists, which some of you may or may not be aware of them, but again, they don't look bad on me out of context. Because at the end of the day, these were all memes or in hindsight distasteful jokes, nothing more. She even directly told me her discomfort with them and I obliged. Note that these few instances were the only ones recorded in DMs, which segues nicely into these two pieces of evidence. Now, some who do know me may be aware that I have a history of airing out my thoughts, bad word choices, not thinking before I talk or act, and generally being bad or cringe in social situations around people. This is quite literally the result of that. I simply woke up, had a dream, and blurted out on a call and the second time after receiving it again. Now, KP also talks about intrusive thoughts and how to deal with them in her own video. And later in DM, she tells me her discomfort about it, which I did apologize for.
He one time talked to me on call about this. He had a dream of when I was a minor. He had a dream of us kissing. Granted, he was grossed out by this, but even so, he shouldn't have told me this dream. I totally understand that intrusive thoughts are a thing. Believe me, I'm someone who suffers with those issues, but I would not dare to talk about them to the average person, because I know how extremely mentally deranged it could be to hear them or deal with them. And I'll admit, I'm very sensitive about that subject.
Could I have simply kept that to myself and forgot about it? Yes, but overall, it was the byproduct of a bad habit on my end, not an active attempt to intrude on her. So once again, it only looks bad when taken out of context. Now, regarding the Amphia one. First things first, that was never sent to KP's DMs, nor it was meant for her in the first place. While this old artwork was from a friend of mine, it was somewhat suggestive, it's not explicit. Second is the context. As she also said in her video, it was a group call involving her, myself, and another person. I'd also like to add that she was 17 and I was 20 around this time. Now, I don't know whether this was done on purpose or she simply forgot, but when I sent that in the group chat, I explicitly told her to not click on it for the sake of boundaries. And on top of that, it was spoiler tagged. Now, in hindsight, I could have sent that specific one to the other person's DMs or not have sent it at all, but why go out of your way to click on it in the first place when it was explicitly stated not to? Why go out of your way to censor it to imply that it's worse than it is? And why use it out of context? Again, I could have handled it differently in hindsight. Another screenshot I'd like to point out is this one that's used to call me a racist. There's simply no way to justify what I said here, so instead I'll provide the context and you can be the judge yourself. This was in a spread server that I'm no longer part of, and there was a big argument at the time. I did a spread intro around that time, which was inspired by another animator. Soon after, I was confronted by other animists about claiming that I was plagiarizing the intro. I had tried explaining to them that I didn't plagiarize it in its entirety. I made some tweaks on my end, but they didn't believe me. Due to the amount of pressure I had at that moment, I just snapped and vented out all my anger. I wish I could just show the argument as proof and recall it more clearly, but that's how time works. It degrades in memory. And I can't access the server to find it in the first place. It was also way back in 2022. I'm not the same person I was back then. Speaking of racism, KP also said that I degraded her with one particular joke I used to always say called, "You owe me crack." Again, to those who know me, you've heard that one before and probably got annoyed how often I said it, including KP. Now, for context, KP is Mexican and admits in her own video that she felt off and a bit offended at the joke and even called me out for it as a joke. Her words, not mine.
He also made a lot of comments degrading me and saying them as a joke. Most prominently the "you owe me crack" jokes, which were specifically, looking back, kind of really racist, especially because I'm Mexican and I have fully been open growing up, especially nowadays with all the stuff going on in the world.
However, the full weight of that simply flew over my head for a long time, as not only I was simply ignorant of the offense, but she never explained why it was such an offense until way before she cut ties with me in DMs, which I will address in a bit. Could I have done research as to why she said that at the time? Yes. Could I have inquired about it? Yes, but I never simply thought to. Meaning for a good while I was unknowingly offending her, which was never my intention due to an error in communication. And when she finally decided to tell me, I once again took accountability and apologized because I was ignorant. I'm aware of this as an excuse, but still, why keep that buried for so long in the first place? You already drew a line for things you didn't like me doing before, and I've responded accordingly. So why would you wait until now to do that again instead of before? This circles back to when she cut ties with me in DMs. Now, on October 10th, 2025, she came forward to me and told me about how she felt. All the discomfort, my ignorance of the track joke, the petting, images, etc. We had a full-blown private conversation about all of this, where she committed all of this, and I once again took accountability, apologized, and I respected her decision. I'd also like to add that she was 18 and I was 21. She even went as far as to say that if people saw our interactions out of context, it would make me look like a predator, as you'd see on screen. Furthermore, she explicitly said she didn't want this to be a big deal and I don't deserve the downfall. Just that I can be a bit weird. And most importantly, it was her decision to not make this public in the first place. I simply respected that choice, she cut me off and moved on. I never pressured her to keep quiet or anything else of the sort. She even says in her video that this is meant to be a wake-up call.
Saying, "Oh, I cut ties with a former friend, I'm not going to talk about who the friend is, you might be able to put the pieces together, yada yada yada," shit like that. But I know I can't. My friends were luckily were by my side and were wanting to call him out publicly. And right when they gave me the consent for it and everything, well, I realized I was done. Please, do not take this as me trying to destroy your reputation. Yes, I do think you shouldn't have a platform anymore. I genuinely don't think so. You did hurt me. Extremely. And during one of the most vulnerable times in my life, when I was a teenager. But that doesn't mean I think you're completely irredeemable. Yes, there's definitely irredeemable traits about you, and because of them, I do think you shouldn't be online. But I think there's still hope for you, man. I know you're struggling through a lot. You've talked to me about a lot of things that you've been through. So to that I say, cool, get offline and seek help.
Now, I want to clarify, I have no ill will towards her, but if all of this was meant to be a wake-up call and not ruin my reputation as you claim, then I already received it during our last exchange in DMs and by igniting all the events that transpired since the original post. You already took a jab at my reputation. That's not a text, that's simply what happened. So why switch up after you said you wouldn't do something like this, proceed to show it out of context, which would have made me look bad, and if I didn't deserve it in the first place? Furthermore, you pinned your own comment in the video. You wrote that you don't consider yourself a victim of grooming and that wasn't taken too far to be considered as such.
Well, I genuinely don't think I was groomed. I still want to put that resource out there because
I fully understand you're going through a lot emotionally and mentally right now, and I still wish you the best, but this is, for lack of a better word, inconsistent. I won't push more on this topic because I spoke my piece. So overall, how do I feel about this? Honestly, very neutral, because I really wasn't expecting this to happen. But I thought it'd be necessary to clear my name, or at least prove that none of this was with malicious intent. I'm not asking for forgiveness or empathy, just to say my side of the story. If you already made up your mind, that's okay, I won't force you to change it. Now all I can do is learn from this mistake and make sure to not repeat this ever again. Now does this excuse any of what I did? Absolutely not. But at least the full picture is out. That's about all I gotta say. See you guys next time.